So they have some neat artistic-y sort of things. And this is using, so let me stop that for the moment. When the green flag is clicked, I have two different rectangles that were originally the same size. So I made one and then just copied it, did a duplicate sprite here. And what I'm doing is moving one of them to the current, let's see, this one, to the current mouse X and Y is 0. That's why it's staying in the center of the height here. But I'm following the mouse X. And I'm modifying the size. The scratch window in Y goes from, is 360. Oh, I said plus 240. I should have said, see, it's 640 by 480. 480 is the total height. So I added 240 because it goes from positive to negative, and I wanted it all to be positive. So I added 240 to make it from 0 to 480. And that's what's setting the size to that. And then the other one is going to mouse X times -1, so at the opposite end. And that's how they're staying opposite sort of each other as I'm moving them. And it looks like they're sort of circling over each other. And the other thing is the height, the size of the rectangle is controlled by, is my cursor near the top or the bottom then? So you get this neat back and forth. I tried playing with color too while I was doing this, but it got to be really psychedelic. It was giving me a headache, so I didn't mess with the color too much. Yeah, so there's a lot of neat art projects you can do with Scratch. Of course, there's some examples that come with it if you haven't seen those. Under Examples, Interactive Art, so Garden Secret is one that I often show, and that's sort of a variant on drawing flowers. When you click the green flag, you click where you want your flower to grow, and it makes different random flowers. So it's using the stamp to make these, and it's using these different petals, basically. When I receive draw flower, if flower is 1, then do this. Repeat 360 divided by 15 is how you figure out how many times to repeat, because you're using 15, and this is where the stamp is. So that's what's making these flowers. It's stamping these particular drawings. If you look at the costumes, they're very simple costumes. But by turning and stamping with that, you make pretty flowers. And you, of course, could do that same thing with your turtle, with drawing things. Yes, that's a nice one. I think that's my favorite out of these. The rest of these I'm not as excited about. Wee's kind of nice. That one's nice as well. And that shows something similar to the circle stuff that I was doing. And you can change the sliders to control the speed, how fast, as well as how much it turns. And if you look at the costumes, it's really this series of dots that it's moving. So it's just stamping, moving by speed steps, turning by that many degrees. So you could put those in as sliders in your turtle art or other things as well, add those sliders, and just do that as variables here. So that's a nice example too to show. And they can then be interactive and play with it. So I did upload several of those examples to my website that we were at originally. So here again is processing. They have a lot of ideas here in processing. They're pretty easy to make in Scratch, so this is a good place to mine for art ideas. Of course, the old logo stuff had a lot of mathematically cool art programs with turtles, so you could do things like that. Any other questions? Okay, so again, where you can go back to getting all this again, hopefully you We have that in here. Let's see, go back to our website is this website. So under Teacher Webinars is where I had these. And I had put things, I will put a link to it here on the site for today. But the two rectangles in mouse was the one that I just showed you, where the rectangles were growing and shrinking and turning basically over each other. The stamp cross was the example with the crosses. Spider start was the beginning, and then spider art was after I added all the things with the spider. I didn't put up here yet the circle stamp, and I could put that one up there if you guys wanted up here. So just let me know. Okay, I will add those up there. And of course, the webinars use some of these materials. So this is a PowerPoint slides for creating the Simple Witch game is one of the things I did in the last webinar that I did was walking through creating that game. And before that, I did an intro to Scratch where we showed how to make a simple 2D animation and how to add to the Pong game a score. So you're always welcome to look back at those previous webinars to get ideas on how to do those. And of course, you can use these slides in with your courses. I just revised them after I taught it the last time because I noticed that I hadn't revised it for 1.4. So here's these slides. So I've added the slides. And what that webinar was about was event handling, simple sequential execution, loops, variables, conditionals, parallel execution, message passing, all with trying to get the kids to create a game where a witch is controlled by arrow keys and she needs to catch the pumpkin. And if she misses the pumpkin, then you lose. If she catches the pumpkin, the score is incremented. So that's what the last webinar was about. The Pong game, in Scratch, it starts with a Pong game basically as an example. So if you look at my first webinar, I usually go into the examples, games, and Pong is one of the examples here. Now it's a very simple Pong, that's what's nice about it. And then we add, one of the things we did in that first webinar was add a score and add a speed so that you speed up the ball over time as well. So it's pretty easy to make a Pong game. And then what I would do is recommend that after they've done that, perhaps you walk them through adding a speed using a variable and adding a score, a variable for a score, that you then challenge them to creating the two-panel Pong. Yeah, I like the water drop sound too, it's cute. Though of course 30 computers all doing that may make you a little crazy. But you can always ask them to bring headphones while they're working with sounds. And you can add, currently the Pong game doesn't have any way to say if you've won or lost. You lose if the ball hits the lava down here, this red line, but you don't get notified that you've lost. So part of the webinar was showing you how to add the you lost information. So if you check out I think it's the second half of the first webinar, you'll see what we did with the Pong game. And then you can always challenge them to create their own kinds of Pong games with two paddles or with additional things that might hit your ball and knock it other places or do things. So it's a good starting point. So we're just about at 9, so I'll ask if there's any other questions.